You can't stop me!
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mangs, and today I welcome you guys to the second Fire Emblem Three Houses character spotlights. We continue to press onwards with the Black Eagle's house, and it only felt right to do one of the prettiest girls in the class. That feels a little wrong to say. Anyway, this chick initially became a meme back in the day for her JoJo hats, but she has proven to be so much more than that. Today we take a look at the alluring and captivating, yet incredibly sharp songstress, Dorothea. Dorothea Arnold was born in the capital of Enbarr, located in the Adrestian Empire. She was a result of an affair between a nobleman and a lady-in-waiting, and in case you don't know what that is, it's basically a sort of handmaiden or a servant to a noble family. Dorothea's father was a bearer of a noble crests, though we don't know which one. The four noble families we do know of in Embarr are Casagranda, Manuela's house, Essar, Hanuman's house, Vestra, Hubert's house, and Hresvelg, Edelgard's house, meaning Dorothea might be related to one of these four families, though since she is the result of an affair between a noble and a commoner, she is technically a bastard. Dorothea's father was a cruel man who was only interested in a crest-bearing child, so when Dorothea was shown not to possess a crest, she and her mother were both thrown out on the streets. While we do not know exactly what happened to Dorothea's mother, it is implied that she died of illness, probably due to their harsh living conditions. So Dorothea became an orphan at a young age and was forced to grow up in the harsh streets of Enbarr all by herself. Dorothea had to spend her days begging for money, stealing, and generally doing whatever she could to survive. She experienced being chased away by rich nobles, some of them would even kick her to get her to move out of the way, and she even had to resort to bathing herself in the fountains of the city to stay clean. One such time, she encountered a young Ferdinand who witnessed her bathing in the water. Smitten by her beauty, thinking her to be some sort of water nymph, Ferdinand ran away because he was overwhelmed by the sights. But Dorothea thought that he ran away in disgust, and this was one of the experiences which made her despise the nobility even more. One day, a noble passing by heard Dorothea sing a song, and was immediately captivated by her beautiful voice. He took her in and brought her to the Mittlefrank Opera Company, where she was trained to become a singer, and eventually earned herself the nickname the Mystical Songstress. Not only did Dorothea have a beautiful voice, but she also grew up to become a beautiful woman, and was constantly praised and adored for her appearance. One noble, who had previously kicked her while she was still living in the streets, even brought her a pair of beautiful shoes as a gift. She wasn't sure to take this as a compliment or some kind of sick joke, but it's more logical to assume the noble did not even remember who she was. In addition to all the flattery she received, she also had to deal with a lot of scummy people. Some suitors could become pretty aggressive in their attempts to woo her. Some scorned men even tried kidnapping her, and some even went as far as trying to have her killed. Luckily, Dorothea had grown up on the harsh streets of Enbarr and knew how to defend herself, and she ended up breaking some arms and bruising a few ribs fighting off such men. During her time at the opera company, Dorothea saw the songstress Manuela perform and was immediately captivated by her style and grace. Manuela became a big role model for Dorothea, which made her very sad when Manuela eventually decided to retire early to start working as a professor at the Garreg Monastery. While Dorothea's career as a songstress was going swimmingly, at some point she realized that her two greatest assets, her voice and her beauty, would fade in time, and that eventually she would end up back on the streets. She therefore decided that if she were to have a good life, she would need to marry someone. Probably inspired by her idol Manuela, Dorothea decided to enroll as a student at the Officers' Academy at Garreg. But in order to pay for her tuition, which was quite expensive, she had to get a noble to pay for her. Whatever she did to make this happen is not directly told to us, but it is sort of implied that she slept her way to an education. At 18 years old, Dorothea joined the Black Eagles class at the monastery. While she was a diligent student, she still kept up her habit of dating knights and nobles from the monastery in search of her ideal husband. Dorothea's dating habits have earned her somewhat of a reputation at the monastery. While many of the knights there admire her grace and beauty, a lot of them also talk behind her back, calling her a gold digger and shaming her for sleeping her way to an education. While Dorothea may appear to not care about such things, it actually bothers her a lot, as shown in her supports with Linhardt. This reveals that she's a lot more sensitive than people might think, and despite having a forked tongue that can really lash out at people, she is far from indestructible herself, and actually spends a lot of time worrying what other people think about her. Dorothea has a very simple, yet pragmatic outlook on life. She recognizes that the two things she values the most, her voice and her beauty, are temporary qualities that will fade with time. Thus, Dorothea believes that in order to live a good life, she must marry well in order to ensure she will be taken care of. She therefore dates a lot, looking for the ideal husband. Before the time skip, her ideals are a bit shallow, as she is only looking to marry a wealthy man to ensure her future, and doesn't seem to be bothered by things such as a bad personality. But post-time skip, this attitude actually changes quite a bit. As Edelgard points out, she seems less interested in dating around. This might be something that they wrote into the script to accommodate Dorothea marrying either the Avatar or another playable character, but it is an interesting change nevertheless. Dorothea has an obvious and apparent disdain for nobility, which is very understandable taking her backstory into account. Much of her suffering is due to the actions of her noble father, who treated her as nothing more than a potential crest, a fate we see mirrored in other characters such as that of Sylvain, Ingrid, and Edelgard. Dorothea has also seen how different nobility can treat her, as she's gone from a filthy street orphan to an admired songstress, and she apparently despises the shallowness of the people, as seen in her support with Ferdinand, where she calls him a bee. Because to her, he's only buzzing around a beautiful flower in bloom. This is similar to the behavior of many of the noble suitors who treated her as dirt when she was living on the streets and suddenly praised her after she became beautiful. There is both a heroic and a tragic side to Dorothea. On one side, she is a survivor, someone who clawed and scratched her way through a difficult life and grew up to become a strong person. On the other side, she has a sadness to her and a vulnerability that only shows itself in glimpses. She may appear tough as nails, but at the end of the day, she most likely just wants to feel safe. Her desire to marry may be practical in nature, but there's also probably a lot of emotional undertones to her actions, as the one thing Dorothea seems to fear more than anything else is loneliness. While Dorothea is a strong-willed person with no lack of intelligence, there is some duplicity in her disdain for nobility. She frequently lambasts them for not deserving their inherited wealth, yet two of her most treasured qualities, her beauty and her voice, are not things she earned, but rather was born with. In many ways, Dorothea, like the nobles she so vividly criticizes, inherited most of her value, though the difference is that while they had a smooth start to life, Dorothea couldn't capitalize on these advantages until they manifested themselves in her teens. I wouldn't say that this makes Dorothea a hypocrite, but it is something I wish at least one of her supports would touch upon, especially the one she has with Ferdinand, though that is one of my favorite supports in the game, so I guess I'll give it a pass. Dorothea is a feminine form of the Greek name Dorotheos, meaning gift of God. Dorothea has a unique post-time skip battle model as a mage, warlock, and dancer. Dorothea is 170 centimeters, or about 5 foot 7 feet tall. She does not grow any taller post-time skip. Dorothea's birthday is on September 29, or the 29th day of the horsebow moon in the Fodlan calendar. Dorothea shares her English voice actor, Allegra Clark, with Shamir from the same game, as well as Ethlyn and Carla from Heroes. Dorothea will join you at the start of the game if you pick the Black Eagles as your house. If you did not, you can still recruit her by having at least a B rank in authority and a charm stat of 25 or higher. Or alternatively, you can obtain a B rank support with her and she will eventually seek you out on her own. Dorothea starts out as a commoner and she doesn't possess a crest. She starts out with decent magic, resistance, and charm, and her growth rates complement these stats as well, though they aren't exceedingly high in any areas. While other students tend to have a few growth rates that are really high, Dorothea's growths are really just average across the board. Her 40% magic, speed, and charm growths aren't bad, but they are not great considering they are her highest ones. Out of all the students in the Black Eagles, Dorothea's stats are some of the least impressive ones. But as we all know, stats aren't everything that makes a unit useful. In terms of proficiencies, Dorothea is strong in swords and reason magic, but weak in faith magic, riding, and flying. She does have a budding talent in faith magic, however, meaning that eventually it will go from weak to strong if you tutor her enough. If you tutor Dorothea in reason magic, she'll pick up Thunder at D rank, Thoron at C rank, Sagittae at B rank, Meteor at A rank, and finally Agnia's Arrow at A+ rank. If you tutor her in faith magic, she'll learn Heal at D rank, Nosferatu at D+ rank, and Physic at C rank. She is by far the most decked out when it comes to reason magic, but the 3 light spells she learns are extremely useful, and really all she needs to perform her job as a healer well. Though she does lack the recover spell, which is sorta useful in a unit with average magic, and she doesn't have great utility spells like Warp or Ward. Dorothea's personal skill is Songstress. At the start of each turn, she passively heals adjacent allies for 10% of their total health. While not exactly among the best of the personal skills, Songstress is useful when there's a lot of damage going out and not quite enough healing to go around. The healing provided by this skill will only equate to a few hit points, but it does stack with other sources of passive healing. Dorothea's budding talent in Faith Magic grants her an ability that will give her 20% avoid whenever she uses Light Magic. Considering Nosferatu is her only offensive Light Magic spell, this talent isn't great. Dorothea isn't dodgy enough for the 20% extra avoid to matter, and Nosferatu also hits like a wet noodle, especially with her average magic. It's a talent you'll most likely pick up regardless, but I personally think she's better off not equipping it in favor of something better. When it comes to her class progression, Dorothea really is made for the Gremory class, and you really want to take the Mage Warlock path, as that will give her Fiendish Blow, a ridiculously strong skill. There is also another master class Dorothea could work towards, and that is the Mortal Savants, seeing as she's proficient in swords. While Mortal Savant is a cool meme class with funny animations, it is considered one of the worst master classes in the game due to its speed growth penalties, and the lack of growth bonuses where it matters, and the fact that swords and magic just aren't a very good combination. Also, if you want her to get there, you either have to tutor her a lot in swords, or have her progress as a Myrmidon, Mercenary and Swordmaster, which honestly isn't great for her considering her 20% base strength growth, and the fact that you won't have access to magic along this route. With Dorothea, if you want to play optimally, Gremory is really her best endgame, though beware that it will turn her into glass with its lower defensive growths. There is another option you could consider though. A lot of people advocate promoting Dorothea into a dancer. While some people may think this is because she has a lot of charm and thus easily wins the dance contests, this isn't really the case, as pretty much anyone can win due to the bonuses you get from the dance lessons. The reason why Dorothea makes a competent dancer is because her growths are kinda bad, and dancers don't really need stats to perform their job. Thus, it is a lot better to give this job to someone who doesn't really do well in combat to begin with. Also, it's just a class that really suits her canonically, and she gets a unique model to boot. At the end of the day, Dorothea is not the best student among the Black Eagles, but she's far from the worst. She has a really nice list of spells, but she's also quite frail and a little bit slow, but she's a decent backup and support unit that will serve you quite well if you know how to take advantage of her strengths. Take good care of this delicate little songstress, and maybe she won't compose an opera about you and sing it in your face. Dorothea is a very interesting character that I immediately liked a lot from the first time I watched her supports. I've always enjoyed characters with multiple sides to them, and Dorothea is definitely not a simple one-note character, being sweet and empathetic to those she likes, but savage and ruthless to those she doesn't. Having two sides doesn't necessarily make you a compelling character, but I do find Dorothea's supports quite endearing. She's certainly a bit flawed, but not so much as to make it annoying, and I think her type of personality is something we haven't seen much of in Fire Emblem. Some people might draw parallels to Fate's Charlottes, and there are some similarities between the two, but I'd say Dorothea is a little bit more honest in her approach, though they are both essentially trying to accomplish the same thing. Despite this, I find Dorothea to be one of the more interesting characters among the Black Eagles. 4 out of 5 stars. I find Dorothea's design to actually be among the best in the game, though I will argue that she looks a little bit better before the time skip. Her JoJo hat, top and skirt is just a much cooler look than the ballroom dress she ends up wearing 5 years later. Don't get me wrong, the bareback dress is absolutely gorgeous and really fits her character, but it just doesn't really look like something you'd wear on a battlefield. And no, we're not going to get into the argument of practicality in Fire Emblem, but at least the Pegasus Knights and Bow Knights look like they are somewhat dressed for battle, despite their thigh-revealing outfits, whereas Dorothea looks like she's on her way to a ball, which is just a little odd considering she's marching off to battle. Still, Dorothea comes close to perfect for me, though I think it's a shame that she loses her hat after she promotes, so I'll give her 4 out of 5 stars. In treehouses, almost every student can become viable with the right amount of training, but I must say that among all the students in the Black Eagles, Dorothea is one of the few that impresses me the least. She has no crests, her growth rates are average, her personal skill is not very useful, and while she can be a nice magical glass cannon, I feel like she gets overshadowed a lot by other units who can do this job better, such as Hubert, Lysithea, and Linhardt. I will therefore give Dorothea 3 out of 5 stars. She's not terrible, but she does struggle to stand out. I'd like to finish this spotlight by thanking my amazing Patreon supporters. Your support means a lot to me and is the reason I can do this every day without having to rely on YouTube's instability. There are many tiers you can join with various rewards, and by becoming a silver tier patron, you can even request your very own character spotlight. Check the link in the video description or at the end of this video for more information. If you have issues with Patreon for whatever reason, you can support my channel directly by clicking the join button in the lower right corner of the video. This grants you a cool icon next to your name as well as access to unique emotes. Regardless of what happens though, all my content will always remain 100% free, and supporting me is completely optional, but very appreciated. Anyway guys, if you want to see more spotlights, click on the playlist linked in front of you, or check out the previous spotlight I've done. Thanks for watching all the way to the end, you are a true fan. Until next time, my name is Mangs, goodbye.